then seek to be understood. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Knowing how to be understood is the other half of habit 5 and is equally critical in reaching win-win solutions. Earlier, we defined maturity as the balance between courage and consideration. Seeking to understand requires consideration. Seeking to be understood takes courage. Win-win requires a high degree of both, so it becomes important in interdependent situations for us to be understood. The early Greeks had a magnificent philosophy which is embodied in three sequentially arranged words: ethos, pathos, and logos. I suggest these three words contain the essence of seeking first to understand and making effective presentations. Ethos is your personal credibility, the faith people have in your integrity and competency. It's the trust that you inspire your emotional bank account. Pathos is the emphatic side, it's the feeling. It means that you are in alignment with the emotional trust of another person's communication. Logos is the logic, the reasoning part of the presentation. Notice the sequence: ethos, pathos, logos, your character and your relationships, and then the logic of your presentation. This represents another major paradigm shift. Most people in making presentations go straight to the logos, the left brain logic of their ideas. They try to convince other people of the validity of that logic without first taking ethos and pathos into consideration. I had an acquaintance who was very frustrated because his boss was locked into what he felt was an unproductive leadership style. Why doesn't he do anything? He asked me. I've talked to him about it. He's aware of it, but he does nothing. Well, why don't you make an effective presentation? I asked. I did, was the reply. How do you define effective? Who do they send back to school when the salesman doesn't sell the buyer? Effective means it means PPC. Did you create the change you wanted? Do you build their relationship in their process? What were the result of your presentation? I told you he didn't do anything. He wouldn't listen. Then make an effective presentation. You've got to emphasize with his head. You've got to get into his frame of mind. You've got to make your point simply and visually and describe the alternative. He's in favor of better than he can himself. That will take some homework. Are you willing to do that? Why do I have to go through all that? He asked. In other words, you want him to change his whole leadership style and you're not willing to change your methods of presentation. I guess so, he replied. Well, then, I said, just smile about it and learn to live with it. I can't live with it, he said. I'd compromise my integrity. Okay, then get to work on an effective presentation. That's in your circle of influence. In the end, we wouldn't do it. The investment seemed too great. Another acquaintance, a university professor, was willing to pay the price. He approached me one day and said, Stephen, I can't get to first base in getting the funding I need for my research because my research is really not in the mainstream of this department's interests. After discussing his situation at some length, I suggested that he develop an effective presentation using ethos, pathos, and logos. I know you're sincere and the research you want to do would bring great benefits. Describe the alternative they are in favor of better than they can themselves. Show that you understand them in depth. Then carefully explain the logic behind your request. Well, I'll try, he said. Do you want to practice with me? I asked. He was willing, and so we rehearsed his approach. When he went into to make his presentation, he started by saying, "Now let me see if I first understand what your objectives are and what your concerns are about this presentation and my recommendation." He took the time to do it slowly, gradually, in the middle of his presentation, demonstrating his depth of understanding and respect for the point of view. A senior professor turned to another professor, nodded, turned back to him, and said, "You've got your money." When you can present your own ideas clearly, specifically, visually, and most important, contextually, in the context of a deep understanding of their paradigms and concerns, you significantly increase the credibility of your ideas. You're not wrapped up in your own thing, delivering grandiose rhetoric from a soapbox. You really understand. What you're presenting may even be different from what you had originally thought, because in your effort to understand you learn. Habit 5 leads you to greater accuracy, greater integrity in your presentations, and people know that. They know you're presenting the ideas which you genuinely believe, taking all known facts and presentations into consideration that will be benefit everyone.